Hey everyone, I'm Rascally Rasmus. Today we're going to talk about the Tiny Glade Demo, which was recently featured as part of the Steam Next Fest. Tiny Glade at its essence is a simplistic and intuitive, cozy 3D art simulator for anyone wanting a soothing experience doodling castles. If you're like me and you have no creative bone in your body, you can still have a very satisfying experience creating your own castles that look like something straight out of the Italian countryside or your favorite fantasy setting. Tiny Glade is scheduled for release in Q3 2024, and it is the self-published debut game of Poundslide, a small indie studio with only 2 developers. The game does not offer much in the form of guidance, but instead encourages you to actively play and experiment with all the features packed into the game. Similarly, the game does not offer the player any form of objectives or progression, as the sole focus of the game is to create anything that you desire, as long, of course, as it is a castle, tavern, or any other structure or flower field that would fit in the aforementioned idyllic Italian countryside or bright fantasy setting. To achieve this while remaining accessible, the game features a clever design that instantly adapts what is already there to your actions. Do you want to build a gate in your castle wall? You don't need to search for the selection of gates in the options menu. Instead, you just draw a road straight through the wall of your castle, and Tiny Glade will automatically and instantaneously adapt your wall to accommodate this new road going through your wall by forming a gate. This means that players can focus their efforts on doing the fun stuff and carry out their vision instead. It also creates a very fast, fluid, and relaxing experience. Players with a strong desire for creating their castle exactly how they envision might, however, be easily turned off by this feature, as the game's adaptation feature comes with some caveats, but more on that later. Tiny Glade is expected to be sold for around $10 to $20 and pre-orders will not be available before release. I would not expect this type of game to come with any microtransactions. I have, however, not seen any official words from the developers on this topic. The demo comes with a fairly limited, yet given the nature of the game, expansive set of tools available to the player. Among the options available are a couple of different types of buildings and a wall, roads, windows, lamps, flowers, and the ability to raise/lower the terrain. Several other options, including what appears to be trees and lakes, are locked in the demo. While the above doesn't sound like much in itself, most of the options can be manipulated further after being placed by pulling, pushing, or rotating. As such, you can influence the height, the width, and the depth of buildings and their roofs. This means that the combination of round and square buildings along with walls can be combined into a vast array of different looking structures. Buildings can also be colored. Most of the coloring options in the demo are, however, locked. Furthermore, the demo's playable area is also limited to a rather small area, equal to around 5% or so of the full area, that will be available in the final game. The controls are very intuitive and everything functions much in the way you would expect. Everything is click to place and pull to expand. You can even use the hotbar keys to select item types for placement of objects. The game also features a shortcut to undo and redo actions. For somebody who loves fantasy and vivid landscapes, Tiny Glade really speaks to me. And while the graphics remain relatively simple, the movement of the grass and other vegetation in the wind really helps immerse you. Similarly, the sheep, butterfly, and other insects roaming your tiny slice of the glade also helps make the world come to life. From the moment you press play, you'll be hearing the relaxing soundtrack combined with the satisfying sounds of your actions, hearing bricks being laid down as you build and the birds singing in the background as the evening sun is setting. With the sun setting, the sounds of Tiny Glade also changes. The sound of the crickets at night reminds you of a warm and carefree summer evening. All in all, Tiny Glade is almost the video game equivalent of a meditation app that actually works. This type of game is typically not something that would catch my eye, but for all the reasons mentioned so far, this one did. Some of my favorite moments in gaming have been enjoying the scenery, such as riding through a flower field for the first time in Ghost of Tsushima, taking in the breathtaking landscapes video game developers have created for us, the players, to enjoy. Tiny Glade invokes that same feeling, despite the gameplay being nothing alike. Instead, Poundslide have given us the agency to create our very own version of one of those moments. To end this video on my early impressions, I will briefly touch on my experience with the game's performance along with 3 things I think could be improved. The performance of the demo appeared solid with no stutters on my gaming PC. However, given the nature of the game, good performance on lower end hardware will likely prove more important for the game's overall success come release. Some people might find the lack of an alignment tool for placing windows bothersome, as it can be slightly difficult to get windows lined up exactly. If this is something you care about, it can cause friction in an otherwise smooth playing experience. Adding an alignment tool might go against the intended spirit of the game, but I'd argue it would still be a nice option to have for people who do care. As mentioned earlier, the way the game adapts to your actions could be an issue for you if you're very particular about the details in your design, since the game adapts the surrounding area with a certain degree of randomness. As an example, when you add a window to your castle, the game might generate flowers of a random color to sit in the window, or the game might add little crates or a watering can sitting along the walls of your castle. The game offers you no tool to help with this randomness, and I don't think it necessarily needs one, as the generally non-intrusive randomness pairs nicely with the meditative experience playing this game is. I did, however, find it slightly annoying that at one time the game placed 2 watering cans right next to each other. Lastly, I would like more options. Obviously, the full game will come with a significantly bigger variety of options in comparison to the demo, but I would still like even more window types, more lamp types, more of everything. Even though I'm the type of person who would like as many options as possible, that might not be what is ultimately the best for the game, as the more options the developers add, the less accessible and intuitive playing the game will become. I'm definitely very excited about the full release of Tiny Glade, especially at the proposed price point. I think the game is super creative, I think it's a really cool concept, and I think it's a good de-stressor, so I'm really looking forward to full release. If you're interested in Tiny Glade, you can wishlist it on Steam right now, and yeah, that's it for me now. Thanks for watching, and yeah, have a nice day.